Hey everyone, a few days ago we ranked 80 carries for solo queue. I thought it was kind of time we updated our mid lane one as well. This will probably be the last one of this patch, but if you want the other roles, so 8.15, then let me know down below. So we're taking the top 25 mid laners since it's such a big role, and I can't even cover all of them either. Stars are going to mean something a little bit different for this one since we can't rank the entire role. So 5 stars for me would be ban worthy. 4 stars will be hard carry, but there's something that you can play around them and still beat them. 3 stars are a bit hit and miss. 2 stars will be your safe choices, so they do well every single game, and 1 star is not ideal for the meta, but they still work. This video is sponsored by Oval, by the way, for the op.gg app. It's the same op.gg that we use anyway, but it brings all that info straight into the game through the app. I honestly look at my team at the start of every game anyway, see if anybody's auto-filled, I found a dodge or not, but this automatically does it. It shows you their stats, as you can see. It lets you click through to their profile as well if you want to. It gives you info on your team, their team as well. Once you load it into the game, find out who's on a win streak, loss streak, what runes they took, who isn't playing their role, a bunch of stuff. The app even lets you look at builds from high-elo players to see what they bought, but in that specific matchup that you are going into that game. Download link is down below, so go check it out for yourself. It saves you a lot of time. I find it useful, and honestly, most of us use this anyway. It just brings it in-game. So 5 stars then, the ban-worthy ones, and the first one we're going to look at is Zed, one of the most banned mid laners at the moment, and insanely good if he gets ahead in the game. He doesn't really struggle to kill people as much as before. The tabby nerfs are a big part of that. There are less defense options as well for his targets, and compared to other assassins, his win rate doesn't drop as hard throughout the game. Honestly, you don't even need your ultimate to kill people with Zed when he gets ahead now, and that's a really big plus because his ultimate is such a big cooldown. When he does decide to use it, he can get on top of you from a mile away though with his shadow on top of it. Then nowhere really is safe on the map when you play against a Zed. He will disappear and he will kill you if you try and farm a side lane. The Ahri buffs as well were really good for her charm, increasing the duration to 1.4 seconds rank 1. That is a long time to be held in place, taking 20% more damage from her. They've made her more like an assassin as well. You get your damage, but then you can actually use that damage properly to carry the game. The thing is, she's very safe as well. So for solo queue, you can make mistakes and you're not really going to get punished for them. Zoe is a true 1v9 champion for me. Watching a good Zoe play is pretty insane. A sleep into a queue will always be effective no matter what's happening in the game. You can hop around when you're close, even after those nerfs. When you're ahead, you just have to look for somebody to sleep and then you one-shot over and over. That's your entire way of playing the game. It's very hard to play against a Zoe because she doesn't even have to be close or in vision to be able to kill you and snowball the game ahead even more. That is why I rate her so highly. It's the ease that she can use that lead she has and how little you can do to actually stop it when you're on the back foot in a game. I think Yasuo is almost the most banned champion in the game now. He's up to 80% of games at the moment. That'll probably get even worse after the crit changes next patch. I feel like this one comes down to player skill a lot. They either suck hard or they're really good, but you are able to outplay in a ton of different ways, and you're always going to be a threat even when you're behind. Your win wall is blocking a lot of the damage we have flying around in this meta. I think it's even more useful than it was before. You're 100% able to hard carry games though, especially if the game goes a bit later. He is one of the best scaling mid laners. Leblanc seems to be almost pickle ban right now. I'm not really sure what changed this patch specifically, but the 100% one-shot is definitely back. Like, I've had my ass pummeled by this a bunch. You have really good roaming anyway. You have other ways to get fed. It's not just a lane phase, even though your 1v1 is actually really good. Your damage output is nuts. This is the reason you're going to pick her though. Very little counterplay to that damage as well, apart from buying items to help yourself. Problem with that is those items cost gold, so you have to like invest to save yourself and not be doing damage. But more than others with Leblanc, if she does get behind, it can be very hard to actually have an impact. So 4 stars, they're hard carrying games, but you can still play around them. Quinn is the first one, a broken champion. Your damage output is crazy high no matter where she's played. She smashes closer range mages as well. It's like if they have to get close, then they're going to get pounded basically. Roaming with that damage is really scary, and this is what makes her so good at the moment. You fly in, you nuke, you rinse and repeat, and you are so fast moving around the map. You're an insane early game champion at the moment. If the game ends before 20 minutes, her win rate right now is 60% in the mid lane. Twisted Fate is a little bit different. He's got a really good kit for solo queue in general. Just roaming around means a lot in an early to mid game meta. Combo that with a Nocturne, who's very popular for double global. I've seen a few games won purely through that now. Nocturne ults, and then you can't actually see where Twisted Fate ults. You can even go Grasp the Undying now to help with harder matchups and become tankier through the game, but of course you are still going to be a little bit on the weak side early, and you can get demolished by those 5-star champions. The thing is, you do have this get out of lane card with your ultimate. So after the nerfs, I don't feel like Talon is naturally going to be as good anymore and not a 5-star champion. He gets pushed in, his poke is a lot worse. When ahead, he still kills people incredibly quickly, but I don't see it happening as often as it used to. He is the best roamer for sure though. He can unload his damage much quicker and easier than other assassins, but he seems to get shut down a little bit easier on this patch. He's still very good, but not pick or ban like before. I would still class Ekko as an assassin, but the one thing that he has a bit more to his kit is a bit more survival. It's also because his damage is not all in one spell, like packed in like a Z ultimate or a Talon ultimate. You can mop up kill after kill. You don't need a specific spell. Your shield offers a bit more playmaking in fights, obviously with the stun as well. Your ultimate makes it less risky. With items, you still have the one-shot potential though that an assassin needs. It's very obvious when you misplay with Ekko though. If you miss your stun or you get crowd control, you get silence, that means you cannot ult and you can be shut down. So Vlad is the final one here, not the best early game champion compared to the others, so he needs a little bit more time. If you smash early, he is not going to be that much of a threat. After a couple of items though, he just runs in and tears you a new one. It's very hard to deal with actually. His damage is practically burst with his ultimate and his E, and he has his pull and his Zhonya's to stay safer after, and his healing. He isn't really the best roamer unless you take Predator, so sometimes it's a bit hard to get into fights and do your damage, but you do always have the backup scaling. He's a really good late game champion. So 3 stars are a bit hit and miss. They can be insane or they can be kind of bad really. Aurelion Sol is a really good example of that actually. His insane roaming potential. He can 1v9 games if you use it that way. Like he's actually able to push still. He can push and roam like you would do before. He's one of the few mages after all of those nerfs that still actually has that in his kit. He falls off a little bit as the game carries on. So if your early game is good, he's an amazing champion, but if not, he's kind of bad really. Ryze is another good example of this. Despite his terrible win rate, like really bad, he's still good on a good player. I think from 2+ items, he becomes a pretty big threat. His damage output is still way higher than most other mid lane champions. It's just hard to play him well really. He can get smashed early game as well. It's not the easiest to navigate fights because you have to get pretty close. Fizz before would have probably been 5 or 4 star to be honest, but his new W is a lot harder to use than before and you might miss out on that burst. He's one of the better scaling assassins though we have. He's decent as the game carries on and it's mainly your ultimate scaling that lets you still one-shot people even when they have some defense. The big buffs coming next patch by the way will probably shoot him back up again, so 3 stars for now, probably 4 or 5 next patch. Heimerdinger is the most oppressive mid laner to play against, hard to gank, hard to even farm against him when you're in the same lane. You need to use that lead while you are stronger though. Heimer burst is really good at the moment and in my opinion that is what is winning your games. It's not just your turrets anymore. If you wait until that burst lowers a little bit later into the game, it makes life a lot harder, so that is why it can be kind of hit and miss. Finally then, Katarina, not seen as much right now but still one of the best early game mid laners you have. If you get ahead, you're pretty much going to roll over the game. She falls off way harder than other assassins though, which is why she's so hit and miss compared to them. If you don't smash and end, it's going to be a pretty difficult game. One bad fight for the enemy team can get you fed though. This is a really good point. Once you get a few items, you're going to steamroll. Just have to get them early into the game. So 2 stars are the safe options. If you're a safe player, by the way, these are still really good choices and they're also really good if you're auto-filled. Malzahar is not that bad at all in the current meta. A really good shutdown versus a lot of these 4 and 5-star champions that we've been talking about. He might not be hard carrying the game himself, but you can shut down that champion and then that kind of like helps your team carry, if that makes sense. You definitely need a few items to do damage yourself, but your wave clear is much better than most and you contain the enemy mid laner so you can roam and they can't. Anivia again actually has really good wave clear. It was buffed a while ago with her Q, so that means you can push and you can contain the enemy mid laner. If that doesn't work versus the enemy, when they get close, you stun, you E, you nuke them, and they can't kill you through your egg, especially assassins. Anivia is really good at delaying games with her ultimate. It's very hard to push towers versus her, which means you kind of stall out the game. Lux is like a safer and kind of budget version of Zoe, I think at the moment. Like you have your one-shot combo, right? It's a bit harder to use. You have to like lock everybody down with all 3 spells and they can Zonya or stopwatch it as well, which sucks for this meta. But your damage is really good and it's constant poke. It's not just a one-shot combo either. So you're so high range, you have shielding for your team. So it's a really good safe choice. Vel'Koz is kind of similar to this. Your Q buffs were really good recently and I think most have swapped to maxing that now over their W. You're good versus other mages though. You can stay much further away, you can push them in and you can poke while staying very safe. Compared to other poke champions, Vel'Koz has a lot of AoE and true damage flying around in fights. It's very easy to hit more than one person while staying much further back. Orianna is our last 2-star. Give her like 2, maybe 3 items in a game and Orianna's damage is not that bad at all and she can actually carry herself. The thing is, a lot rush Zhonya's and they just don't have the damage to actually carry themselves, but with that she is like extra safe. You can farm from range of your Zhonya's and your shield. In fight she can have the damage, right, if she gets those items, but she also has the protection for her team. It's a very good team pick to let others carry, especially when every other role is probably picking damage. 1 star would mean they are not really meta at the moment, but they are still good choices and can be really good in the right game. Veigar is a good example of this. Depends on your team a little bit, but scaling is not that meta at the moment. So that's what I mean with this group. Veigar can offer a stun early game. So if your jungler comes mid a lot, then you end up getting a lot out of it. Like, you're going to get fed, they're going to get fed, and it's really good. If not, though, it's kind of just like a waiting game. Wait until you get your stacks, wait until you get a few more items. If you get fed, though, he is insane because it just accelerates that late game. Same thing with Kassadin, really, but Arcane Comet or Fleet Footwork is actually really good. So is Grasp of the Undying. You can take like more defensive keystones because you have so much damage in your kit. Basically, you just have to survive until you get those items, though. You're not that good early game, but you are insane later. That's kind of the problem, though, a little bit. If you can't get fed or you can't hold out in the game, you don't do a ton. If you can, you're going to carry. Karthus is basically the same kind of thing, actually. I wouldn't say he is meta, but if he gets ahead or the game goes late, you can definitely carry him, mostly with your ultimate. I think Stopwatch being so cheap actually hurts Karthus here, though. Like, if I'm versus him in a game, I would buy that and use it to cancel out his next ultimate for just 600 gold. That also builds into a J, or a Zhonya's actually is an even better counter, but his ultimate will still half health if he can get it through, right? And he gets stronger as you go into the game, so he's not a bad choice. Now, Swain is kind of like meta, I guess, but I think he's meta bot lane now instead of mid lane, so that is why I put him in the 1 star. Swain can get bullied early game by the other 4 and 5 star champions. Having a support, though, helps him turn that around, but not for mid lane. Basically, bot lane Swain just activates a little bit earlier into the game and is a little bit stronger earlier, which is why he works a bit better in my opinion. Your wave flare is not the best. He needs a few items to be useful, but you can obviously turn into a powerhouse. It's very hard to kill and does a good amount of damage later. Cassiope is rounding out our 1 star, so scales very well, but can be absolutely useless in the game at the same time. Cassio is short range, consistent damage, right? Assassins and other stuff are burst and from further away, so she can't get close and doesn't have the time to do her damage either. Give her a little bit of time, like leave her alone, and she's really good, but she just doesn't always get that time in a fight to do it. Now, 3 that I think you might be wondering where they are. So Xerath is the same as other poke champions in the safe group. He could easily slot in there. Aurelia is not really used as much after the nerfs. Probably put her in 3 stars. Hit hit and miss. She can be good, but she's not as good as before. Wukong is another one. Very good if you get ahead. Wukong's kind of busted, so you might actually put him very similar to a Quinn. So that wraps up what I think are the top 25 at the moment and what group they belong in. Let me know what you think of this style of video. Thank you for watching until the very end, but as always, I'll catch you in the next video.